Hello, KFC SuperCoaches. Sorry we're a touch late. We've got an unexpected delivery of KFC that's just arrived in front of us. We've got the merch rocking as well. What a time to be alive. Final countdown, final game day podcast of the season. How good's this? Didn't even know this was coming.
I've lucked out, I think, 3 of my last 4 potties on here. I've nailed KFC day after a really barren run of missing the KFC drops.
I don't think when you actually worked here you ever got any KFC.
No, I never did.
And then since that, you've just managed to get the right episodes every time. Tim Moody, how's your team travelling, mate?
Yeah, excellent. Just stoked with my side at the moment.
Is that ironic?
Yeah, a bit ironic. Yeah, no, look, we're sitting poorly outside, just outside 10,000th, and that's probably going to slide this weekend, so it is what it is.
Well, that's the big question. How many players on the park for you this week?
I'm going okay this week. I had a Joey Manu debacle last weekend. I know I wasn't alone, so I won't waste up too many more tears this week. Mate,
Did you captain him or something?
Yeah, I had Scotty Drinkwater VC'd, and then I had 18 players, and I had Piakura, who was coming off the bench against the Rays, and he's scoring 15 points. So I was like, screw it, I won't loop drinking, I'll take on Manu. 20 minutes in, I'm just like, this just sums up SuperCoach this season. So, mate, this week, though, 14 players on deck, 13 guns, plus Jack Howarth, who I'm hoping can slide into that starting spot for Eli Katoa. Might be a bit ambitious. And then, the recent news, Joey Manu not playing this week, so...
Yeah, so breaking news that just came through probably 45 minutes ago or so. Joey Manu is out with that hamstring injury, back for the first week of finals, but that doesn't help us SuperCoaches at all. So I've got 11 on the park this week. That's rough. I had 4 trades left until a couple of weeks ago, but 11 on the park. How about yourself?
I've got 10, and 3 of them are coming off the bench. So Howarth, Hosking, and Sonny Luke.
I'm coming for you, Sangster.
Oh, mate, you could actually get... where are you ranked now?
I dropped another 1,200 to 6,000 last week. What are you?
Mate, I'm 3,200, mate.
So I've got about 4 players on.
Yeah, but if you've... anything could happen this week, and the race for the overall is... honestly, anyone in the top 30 could win, so it's going to be a really interesting weekend.
You're seeing all this carnage unfold, and where we're all ranked, so sweet, whatever. There's nothing too different going to happen. If you're sitting in that top 100, top 200, seeing this, you'd just be going, what a nightmare of a week.
Yep, looks like there are some teams ranked sort of 6th and 8th that have got lots of trades and lots of players. So it's going to be a crazy weekend coming up. Let's pimp your teams. We'll bring up all those questions in just a sec, but send them through on Facebook or on YouTube. We'll get to them soon. While we're waiting, in fact, I might get one to you right now. Only 2 comments.
I'll jump in while you're finding them, Tommy. Yep. So, SC Playbook's data man, Adam DeRusi, has run the numbers this week. On average, top-ranked teams, basically top 100 all the way through to top, 10,000. 10.5 average on deck, and that's obviously taking in guys like Mulheisen, Jack Howarth, etc. So there'll be a lot of people running, really army off the bench for the Wars. So there'll be a lot of teams out there with single digits this week, and they might not even be quality digits.
Just while you mentioned that, over at the SC Experience, we've actually got a guy running a little bit of data as well, which is interesting to note. Go on.
Oh, there we go. Everyone's just flexing. So much flexing. Travis has written in, gone from 23 players 2 weeks ago to 9 players this week. That's a pretty common experience, to be honest. Good to see the lads are trying to be healthy with the water. That's...
Yeah, well,
is that I don't think that was approved by KFC.
Oh, look, it's not, but I'm pretty sure this is one of their products, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you can.
It would be.
They're missing the Pepsi, aren't they?
Right, big game coming up with the Broncos and the Storm. Essentially a reserve grade clash. Let's do the burning issues. So, as I said, it's essentially a reserve grade game. So many players rested, including Reece Walsh, who I was going to bring in this week, Payne Haas, Munster, Grant, Meaney, all out. Reece Walsh is a massive blow because he is still one of the more purchased players this week. People haven't even reacted to that yet. So definitely get Reece Walsh out of your team.
Yeah, he's a big one, isn't he? I was down to that Raiders Broncos game on Saturday night in the Capital, and Beloved Raiders, we were basically beaten single-handedly by Reece Walsh. He's just a genuine freak. Not that we didn't already know this season, but seriously, the ceiling this bloke has in not only SuperCoach but the NRL is ridiculous. So that fullback battle next year, round one, when you're looking at probably a discounted Tom Trebojevic, Ryan Pappenhausen, up against Reece Walsh, Kalen Pong is probably going to be only available at fullback, I'd imagine, Latrell Mitchell. Far out, it's going to be tough going.
Yeah, absolutely red hot position, that's for sure. Speaking of those guys, Ryan Pappenhausen, pretty popular this week. He's gone from essentially nowhere. Oh, here we got Johnny Bateman. He's been ruled out this week for the Tigers. In terms of Pappenhausen, he's pretty popular. So he's come from basically nowhere to being about the third most purchased player this week.
Heard Bellamy say just on a little interview, plan is to get him out there for 80 if we can. So
yeah. I also saw Panisi say that he'll probably play 80, but he won't play all 80 at fullback, which is a bit of a blow. Yeah, because they want to use him as a bench utility over the finals. Meaning he will still play fullback in the finals. So Panisi said he won't play the full game at fullback. And they'll use him in that sort of middle forward, chasing the ball rotation. Which is where, I mean, he killed it in that spot a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I just, defence-wise, like how that... Unless they're defending Meany in the line and Pappy at fullback, he's just
more chance of head knocks, which is something that he's had issues with as well.
I think it's a pretty brave play to play him in the defensive line, but in attack, like we've seen what he's done in the past, playing that role. So we'll see.
We've got Travis writing in again saying surely there should be some sort of emergency trades should be brought in for rounds like this. We're looking at a couple of options for next year, but it's hard to predict. Resting's never really happened in the final round until the last season was the first time. So it's just 2 years in a row where it's really taken off. Before that, teams used to like to get momentum going into finals. So it's a relatively new thing, but it looks like it's going to stick.
Yeah, I think you guys at SuperCoach headquarters did very well to bring the head-to-head grand final back a week and sort that out. So
nice stroke, that one.
Very nicely done. And then you guys can adapt on the run and try and make it easier for next year.
Someone's saying Mount Franklin is a Coca-Cola product and KFC is aligned to Pepsi.
Ooh.
Uh-oh.
I'm a Pepsi man.
I wasn't liking the taste of that, to be fair.
There we go.
Yeah, something about it.
Tommy, I'm a big advocate for this time of season. Teams with their depth and that have saved a few trades being rewarded for it. Obviously, this week's like gone beyond all expectations of resting. So, I like the round 27. I think one that's been thrown up a little bit is you could potentially go down that avenue of what you do during the bye period, top 13 scoring players. It'll still reward teams with depth and save those trades, but it just like I feel like we'll never see what's happened this week again. But it does cover the mass carnage.
It's crazy how much of a new thing resting is in rugby league when it's like the hardest, most physical sport in the world, and yet when Cameron Smith was playing, he's like never resting. Like he would be fuming.
Well, it's hard for him to referee the game from on the sideline, isn't it?
Exactly.
I think two things that come into it as well is since Cam Smith's day, only being a few years ago, but there's the crackdown on head knocks.
Yep.
There is the suspensions that arise with any contact to the head and dangerous tackles and hip drops. So coaches are going, why risk these players getting a HIA, a Cat 1 and missing week 1 finals, doing a hip drop they had no idea what they've done and missing the whole final series, so that definitely play into it.
Yep, 100%. It's a different world these days, and we are looking at some rule changes for next year. Let's do Friday Night Footy. Sea Eagles v the Tigers. I feel like this is the clash to target this weekend. I think it'll be high scoring. I think the Sea Eagles will probably have the better of it, so I'd be targeting Sea Eagles over Tigers. Cooler, I like. DCE, I bought him last week. I'm pretty happy. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I love DCE. He's great for this time of year, the back end, especially with the draw he's had over the last 2 weeks. Anyone who's had trades and been able to bring him in for Hines or people like who've got SJ to bring him in this week, that's fantastic. It's amazing.
Thoughts?
Yeah, Kohler at fullback last week was outstanding. He had, I think, 10 tackle bars, had 19 runs, which is significantly up from what he does at centre. So, a great play here.
Yeah.
And the awkward one with Cherry Evans for particularly probably Nico Hines. And I'm with you, Tommy. I went Nico to him last week. think Sean Johnson owners can definitely go to Ches this week, but if you're a Nico owner, it seems an okay trade, but in a week like this where no one's got 17 anyway, imagine trading a gun like Nico, and I think we're expecting him to play, aren't we, against the Raiders?
It's quite late in the round, isn't it? Last game of the round, so look, we don't know yet, essentially. And we've got guys who are really all over the Sharkies in like Dave Riccio, Buzz Rothfield, etc. So we are chasing it, but we don't know yet. And we may not even know by the time DCE takes the field on Friday night at 6 p.m.
Big
He
chance.
plays early and Nico plays late, so it's a difficult week this week. What about... Oh, we've talked about the two guys from this game, actually, who I care about. Anyone else standing out for the Sea Eagles or Tigers?
You could get a little bit funky and go Amale Olakuatu, running off Cherry Evans there. Jason Saab's the other one who, if you want to take a real flyer, I think Cole is the better option, but Saab could just rack up tries and line breaks in this game. I don't particularly like forwards playing against the Tigers. They tend to defend, particularly Supercoach points-wise, forwards quite well, but their edges are where their deficiencies aren't there. So I think someone like Saab could have a field day.
Saab, definitely, and a guy, not in this game, but you mentioned a pod off air before that got me a little bit interested as well in the Titans v Bulldogs game, which is the other game to target,
Yeah, I thought you were trying to set me up for that there. Sorry, I thought you were going to keep going. But yeah, I think he's a good go with them up against the Doggies. Foz is playing?
I think so, yeah.
And then you've also got Fifi just tipping him on, sending him over. I think he could be the guy that scores 3 to 4 tries this weekend.
We've got the Rabbitohs v Roosters is the next game. As we mentioned, Joey Manu is out, which is a huge blow for super coaches. Interesting game because it's must-win for both teams. Here's Manu doing his hammy over the weekend.
Thanks for putting that up on screen for us, guys.
They're saying he will be back for the finals, but that does not help Supercoach. It's just an interesting game because you've got foundation rivals. These games are always fiery. Plus, it's must-win for both teams as well. You got Teddy back into that team, but there's no Latrell. There's so many things pulling me in different directions.
Yeah, moving parts all over the place, isn't there?
Yeah.
I invested pretty heavily in the Bunnies. I just thought they'd bounce back after that Origin period and go on a tear to finish the season. I was entirely wrong. I'm happy to cop that one. And I'm sort of waiting for that Cody
That's
Walker.
probably got to do with the culture issues or whatever they've had, though, you know what I mean? So
things going on all over the place. So I'm hoping it's a Cody Walker bounce back week and AJ can be one of the big recipients on that left wing. But, mate, it has said, Tommy, tough game to assess.
Yeah, I do kind of like James Tedesco as a VC. Probably wouldn't risk him with the C. But as a VC, I'd be pretty happy with Tedesco. Walker, I agree, is due for something big, and he's done huge things in final rounds in the past. I don't know.
2020, Cody Walker.
Is that
I had him, so I was all right. It's not.
Sorry, I didn't know if
it's a
that
compliment.
was a Joey Manu sore point.
It was the Cody Walker, Cam Murray double that night.
Yeah. Right. Well, is Cody Walker due?
I don't know. I feel like this game, it's going to have that finals feel. I don't know if it's going to be a low-scoring game. It's probably still going to have points in it. I reckon I'd try look elsewhere for vice-captains and captains, just in games that have less riding on it, where they could just be beat-ups. Speaking
of VCs and Cs, we've got Luke Easton writing in on Facebook. Hit us up on YouTube as well. He says, Cleary VC and Fafita C. That's currently what I've got locked in. You're a Panthers fan. Do you reckon Cleary will play?
Hard to say.
Could he hinge on what happens tonight?
I've kind of got a vibe that we will send the boys out and try to just get the win. I think having 2 losses going back-to-back into the finals might just sit mentally not nicely. Even though, I guess if we're resting players, we know we're taking a loss, but...
he was really struggling last week until the last little bit. Then he got that junk try and a few stats late. And that's what Clear is good at. We know that he can be on, 50 or whatever, and with 10 minutes to go and end up on 120. But still, the Panthers did not look good last week. Are we worried about Cleary at all? No Luai?
Not entirely. I think no Luai just means Cleary gets more attacking ball on that right edge, which will bode well for any, there's been too many Stephen Crichton owners out there, but Brian Toto in particular. I just think they've also staggered a lot of restings the last 2 or 3 weeks. Then look, they haven't been at their best, but they've had a lot of players out. As this team's been named, they're close enough to full strength, missing a couple still, but as Timmy said before, like they're coming off a loss. Penrith don't lose back-to-back. They'll be out there to make a statement going into finals if this team runs out on deck, so I think Cleary's a huge play.
Yep, I've got the VC on him currently. Hopefully he does take the field. Let's do late mail. We got people writing in saying Cleary will score much more without Luai, which is a pretty good call as well. We've just had the flip.
What are you talking about?
The flip. Has anyone just... If you've noticed that anything's changed on this show, please write in and let us know what it is. In terms of late mail, Manu's the big thing. Let's just talk about captaincy straight up. Let's go Cope's captains. So, the percentages here. Nathan Cleary, 29% as captain. Thoughts on that? Straight C. He plays, the fifth game of the round, so you should be able to get someone with a decent upside before him.
Yeah, I think he's fine for a straight C, provided you've got the right person. Like, anyone with trades might bring someone in like Kohler this week, who'd be a decent shout. I think there's potentially better captaincy options later in the week that we can maybe VC Cleary, but I don't mind it.
I really like Fafita. He hasn't been great in recent weeks. I think this will be a bounce-back game for him. It's a day game at Seabus Super Stadium, 2 p.m, against the Doggies, who've had an absolute dog's breakfast of a week. I feel like Fafita could go gangbusters. So he's my C with the VC on Cleary. I would love to VC DCE, but I can't, given I've got Cleary and DCE in the same position.
It's always a pickle, isn't it, when they're usually the two best players in your side, your halves, if you're not the fullback. I'm going to go VC Izako. The Warriors are a bit thinner than normal. I'm hoping that the Dolphins cap the season off well, finish their first year, and he's a recipient of a few meat pies. Enough to loop, hopefully. If not, then I'm going to go with Fafita as my captain.
Ponga's still at 16% captaincy, so definitely change your teams now. That's probably some head-to-head players in there who've completely given up. Nicho Hynes, I think, is a good captaincy option at basically 10%. We'd have to get it confirmed that he's playing beforehand, but still at 10%, the best player in SuperCoach in what's essentially a must-win game at home against the Raiders. I think he could go well. Yeah,
always a decent play, Nicho, and it's just such an awkward timing, that final game of the round, isn't it? Like, even if it was...
You can't flip to anyone, really.
Yeah, if they were 2 o'clock and the Titans were 4, you could go to Fafita, but you can't, obviously. So my concern with Nicho is goal kicking. If he has that quad concern, Braden Trindle hits him every bit as good as Nicho, so maybe Trindle kicks. So this isn't based on anything. It has to be very likely, doesn't it? Yeah,
that's a good call, actually. Very good call. We've got Bucket Hats are giving off Run DMC and Beastie Boys vibes.
I felt sort of like that vibe too. Good.
We bust out some freestyle raps on this show later.
A little bit of breakdancing. Get some cardboard out.
DCE as captain, Ryan's writing in. I wouldn't, because the second game of the round, I think save your captain for a little bit later.
You can just do VC. It's a free loop from nearly everyone.
Probably is.
Unless he's getting Pappenhausen in and going a little Pappenhausen play.
Pappenhausen for VC and DCE captain. I don't hate that either. That's about it for the questions, guys. We're going to call an end to the Game Day podcast. It's been an amazing season. Big thanks to the two Tims here. Big thanks to our production team. We're going to get stuck into this unexpected delivery of KFC that arrived about 5 minutes before the show. And we'll have a podcast with the winner next week.
Big thanks to yourself, obviously, Tom. You week in, week out, showing up, getting the job done, giving great advice. You managed to knock us off this year, so...
Oh, it's pretty,
let's reassess that next week, mate.
Yeah, mate, you've got about 4 more players than me, so...
Tommy Saints are just carrying the SuperCoach community year after year. Cops the abuse based on nothing when a when a try just doesn't go someone's way, and Tommy's the one that gets inboxed every week despite having nothing to do. So, yeah, mate, you
The
can't.
Unicorns. Oh, happy days. It's been a good season. We'll catch you next week for the podcast with the winner. And other than that, sign up to SuperCoach BBL.